I'm playing Jesus in my church program. He came to me. I told him I don't look anything like him, but nobody else would do it. So here I am. In playing him, I got to thinking about him. And of all the things he is, there's this amazing thing about him, that this balance of truth and grace, you know? I mean, take, for instance, the story of the rich young ruler. I mean, it says in Mark that he showed genuine love. Jesus shows genuine love to this guy. I mean, that's grace. That's amazing grace. That's amazing grace, yeah. But then just like a minute or two later, he looks at him and says, you need to sell everything you have if you want to follow me. And that's truth, because he knew that money had a hold on the guy's heart. Truth and grace. I need more of that in my life. The truth is, I may not look like Jesus, but I sure do want to act more like him.
Chainless, the bicycles were chainless, and carriages were horseless, and many laws enforceless. Next, cookery was fireless, telegraphy was wireless, so wireless phone. Soon oranges were seedless, the putting greens weedless, the college boy hatless, the proper diet fatless. Now motor roads are dustless, the latest steel is rustless, our tennis courts are godless, our sodless, our new religions are godless. That last line is what we're going to talk about today. It says our new religions are godless. What we're going to look at is a little different what we've looked at over the last few weeks. The last few weeks we've been looking at Christianity versus other religions. Jesus versus other beliefs. God versus other belief in gods. So it's been one thing versus another. Basically this week we're going to look at atheism, which is God versus nothing. Right? God versus nothing. Atheism is the disbelief or lack of belief in the existence of God. So keep in mind, this isn't, you may hear the term agnostic, meaning that I don't know if I really believe, or I might believe, but I'm not worried about it. Atheists truly believe that there is no God, there's no creator, there's no afterlife. They're usually a little argumentative about it. They usually stand kind of firm on science and some different stuff and try to argue it that way. And they truly, truly believe that life on this earth would be better if everyone thought the same way they did. They truly believe it's bad that we believe in Jesus Christ, which is kind of crazy because I'm not sure Christians are really going out there just doing a whole bunch of bad things, but that's what they believe. They believe things would be better if everyone believed the same thing they did. So I'm going to go over a couple of just maybe arguments or points that atheists try to bring up. One thing that they always try to go to is this idea of good versus evil. Where do we get our moral belief? Where do we get the idea of what is good and what is evil? They believe that it's subjective is where we get our morals. Subjective morals mean it's our own opinion what is right or wrong. It's our own opinion. Basically, the way we grew up, the way our culture tells us, the way our parents tell us, that's how we decide what is right and wrong. But we believe it is objective moral standards, meaning there's an absolute right and wrong. And we can see that in a lot of different ways in history. You have the Nazis that did things. If that was just their belief, how can we say that that's wrong? Right? There's no moral standard. God gives us a moral standard. One way to look at it is this way. For something to be more evil or more good, there has to be a standard, right? Can y'all all agree that murder is more evil or closer or further away from good than maybe stealing a piece of gum from the store? Can y'all agree with that? That it's more evil. For something to be more evil, that means it has to be further away from a standing point, a solid point. I know that's confusing, but I really want y'all to get that. That they believe there is no moral standards, there's no absolute right or wrong, yet we believe that God gives us this moral standard, these absolute standards for right and wrong, good versus evil. Something else they say, well, if God was real, then God's an evil God. Well, in that same argument, they're saying, what is evil without this absolute standard? But we won't go there. But they say God is evil God. I don't believe that God is really evil, because I don't know that real evil actually exists. I think evil is just the absence of good, or evil is just the absence of God, just as darkness is the absence of... Come on. What's darkness? The absence of light. Are y'all awake? Like, it's 11:30, or it's past that. Y'all gotta wake up. Come on. So, just as darkness is the absence of light, darkness doesn't truly exist. It's just the absence of something. Just as real true evil is just the absence of good. And a lot of times, we have to remember, though, that God is a sovereign God. God is in control. God is over everything. It is His purpose, His will, His idea. He is in control. And a lot of times, we look at that as, God, why are you allowing this to happen? If you're truly in control, why are you allowing this pain to happen? But we got to remember, His primary goal is for His glory. It's not for ours. His primary goal is to repair the relationship with Him. That's why Jesus came. But we, a lot of times, don't understand that. We don't see the purpose behind it. We don't see the purpose because of the pain. But I want y'all to think of this. How many of y'all have a pet? All right? So I have a dog. Her name is Ladybird. And she loves to get in my truck. She loves to go places. So I can say, Ladybird, get up, let's load up, we're going. She runs, get in the back of my truck, pumped up, super happy the whole way. As soon as I pull into the vet's office and open the door, she is ticked off at me. She is very upset because she hates it. Like, so much that I have to drag her where her feet are stopping and I'm pulling the collar off of her. We get in there. She doesn't do anything but just shakes and doesn't want to go in. They go in and they take blood from her. They give her shots. They have to sedate her just to cut her fingernails. Or her toenails, I'll say. They have to sedate. Like, she hates it. But she doesn't understand that everything that I'm doing, this entire 2-hour process, is for her good. Now, I'm not saying we're on the same mental capacity as a dog. I'm saying that our mental understanding of God is about the same as what a dog looks at as us. A lot of times, God's given us this pain or putting us through these things, but it's hard for us to understand why. And that's okay, because we serve an amazing God, amazing Creator, and it's all because of His purpose, His perfect timing, His perfect will. And we have to understand that all things that happen, if He is in control and He is a sovereign God, all things that happen are either caused by Him or they're allowed by Him. Right? All things are either caused by Him or they're allowed by Him. Which goes into the next thing, is why else do bad things happen? All right? Or hold on, I'm going to go back real quick. So we talk about everything has to have a purpose, right? Real quick, do y'all understand that Jesus, Son of God, had to come here and endure pain and suffering? All right? Jesus had to come here to endure pain and suffering. And of course, it had one of the biggest purposes in this world. It was to save all of us. So, if Jesus had to endure some pain and suffering for a big purpose, which I'm sure glad He did, we're going to endure some pain and suffering every once in a while for God's purpose. So if it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for us. So other things. They may ask, an atheist may ask you, like, why else do bad things happen? Was there any other reason bad things happen? I agree. I believe so. Just as Adam and Eve, back in the day, in the beginning, it said that they had free will. They had choices. And it was the girl, not the guy. But the girl ate the fruit, the forbidden food. Gave them free will to choose on what to do. Atheists have the same free will that we do because they were created by God. But the same free will that they argue for the non-existence of God, saying, well, if God existed, then there wouldn't be these bad things, is the same free will that they have to reject God. The same free will that they have to choose to reject God is the same free will that they use to try to disprove God. But it doesn't make sense. But I agree. We do have free will, and a lot of times it's our choices, but God allows them to happen. And it's true. We live in a world of pain. We live in a world of suffering. We live in a world of disease. We actually live in a world, and two of the biggest ones is poverty and hunger. And a lot of times we ask God, why do you let this happen? Yet research shows that there's enough food on this planet to feed every single person abundantly. It says research shows there's enough money in this world for every single person to live a life of great wealth. Yet we try to blame God for certain things. Does that make sense to y'all? Like, a lot of times it's caused by us, and a lot of times we as humans look at this and we say, God, why did you let this happen? We ask, why did you let this happen, when a lot of things are caused by us? And even as believers, sometimes when bad things are happening, when something's not just going right, we can't understand it, we want to push God away. We want to push God away and say, God, why are you letting this happen to me? When in fact, that's exactly what we need at that time. A lot of times when we have pain and we have suffering, we need God. Think of it this way. I was with my son the other day at the park, and we're playing, we're running, he likes to race. And it's got this concrete circle that goes around it, and he was wanting to run, he's running, and he falls down and scrapes his knee. He runs up to me, I hold him, I console him, I tell him I love him, that he's going to be okay. He didn't blame me for what happened. Like, Dad, why did you let that happen to me? But I think we do that to God a lot of times. We're like, God, why did you let that happen to me? When actually, he didn't cause it necessarily, but he allowed it to happen sometimes. But we need that comfort. We need that relationship. And even as believers, sometimes I think we push ourselves away from God, when exactly what we need is just to be consoled, to be picked up and say, I love you, I'm here for you, and I have protection. And the last thing, atheists are always going to bring up the idea of like, well, if God really existed, this wouldn't happen. If God really existed, there wouldn't be this evil. Or if God really existed, this bad stuff wouldn't happen. But I think a lot of times what we miss out on and don't remember is this question: why do good things happen? Right? We always want to look at the bad. Why do good things happen? Why do we have relationships? Why did God create marriage? Why do we get to fall in love? Why do we have emotions? Do you know that we can be so happy sometimes we cry? We can laugh so hard we cry. Just the miracle of birth. If you walk outside and look at the sun and the clouds and all this stuff, why do these good things happen? Why do we get to eat amazing food and it tastes good? Have you ever thought about that? Why do we get that? Why don't we just all eat meat and leaves and it all tastes the same and we'd all live? But why did he create us in a way that we get to experience good things? I think that's what we miss out on sometimes, is we forget to ask ourselves, why, God, do you allow these good things to happen? Instead of asking, why are these bad things happening? But for me, though, this is kind of, I don't know about y'all, I didn't grow up in a church. I didn't grow up with a youth group. I didn't grow up with a pastor or small group leader. I didn't go to church on Sundays. That's not how I grew up. But I can tell you this, I never once doubted of a God or a creator. I had a bunch of questions, yes, but I never in my heart doubted that there was a God and there was a creator. And I think this is why. In Romans 1:20 it says, "For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and the sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power, divine nature, so there is no excuse for not knowing God." I believe we were created and designed to seek a God. We were created to seek our Creator. I honestly believe that's why we're doing this series right now, because there's so many religions out there that are searching for a God. They're seeking a God because that's the way we were created. We were created to desire this relationship. And what happened is Christ came down to fix that relationship. But we desire that, and we are created for that very reason. But if we're created to desire this God, those are the questions we have to ask ourselves. And we're going to go back to the very beginning. There's 3 more things, y'all stay with me, not too much longer, that we talked about at the very beginning of this series. And if you've missed any of this series, y'all remember we have a YouTube channel. You can see every single video that's gone up for the last couple of months. So make sure y'all check that out if you forgot anything. But what we're going to go back to, there's 3 main things that you can rely on to find out who your God is. Because we are designed and we are created to seek this God. The first is, what is your source of truth? Atheists may say that, man, the Bible's really not accurate. The Bible's just made up. It's from a long time ago. But listen to this. The New Testament alone. So the New Testament, the life of Jesus, the ministry of Jesus, the death of Jesus. The New Testament alone has around 24,000 supporting biblical manuscripts, meaning transmissions or interpretations of it. There's over 24,000. And they say from all 24,000, from the very beginning, they are 99.5% textually pure. What that means is they've been reliably transmitted from the very beginning out of all these 24,000 manuscripts, over 24,000. We can trust them. It's truth. It's what was really written that long ago. They're 99.5% textually pure. Second thing, if what's written in the Bible is what was written that long ago. We know that it's true. It's been reliably transmitted over all these years, so we know whatever's saying is to be true. Let's look at just the Gospels. Y'all know what the Gospels are? That's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And so these are the Gospels, are the people talking about their relationship with Jesus. They're talking about their interaction with Jesus. It says that one of the Gospels was written about 50 to 60 AD. One of them was written around, or two of them were written around 70 to 80 AD, and one of them was written around 100 AD. So you have four different people accounting of the life of Jesus that are written about 50 to 60 years apart. All right? And do y'all know how long ago 50 to 60 AD is? It's a long time ago. There was no internet, there was no email, there was no text, there was no nothing. Yet, these four people wrote about Jesus. They wrote them 50 to 60 years apart. They didn't get together and write it. They were hundreds of miles apart from each other. They didn't have any type of communication, yet every single one of their stories line up perfectly. All of them line up perfectly. Now, they have different perspectives because their relationship to Jesus, but all of the facts line up perfectly. I can tell you this. Have you ever played the telephone game? I guarantee you, us right here, I couldn't make up a story, tell it to you, you tell it to him, 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 and it'd be right. And that's within a minute, 5 people sitting together making up a story. Yet these people did it over a 60-year span, didn't sit down together, and they all line up perfectly. And you want to tell me that was just made up? It doesn't make sense. They were written. So the fact that their accounts all line up perfectly, and they weren't even written at the same time, proves that they're accurate. So we know that it was reliably transmitted. We know that the Gospels all line up to be true. So the question is, do you have faith in the Bible? Is that your source of truth? That's the first question you need to ask. The second thing is, a lot of times we have to ask ourselves, who is Jesus to us? Do we believe in Jesus? Atheists may say he's just another guy in history, or he may not have even exist. But there's 4 truths to Jesus, or 4 possibilities to Jesus. He can either be a liar, he can be crazy, he can be the legend, just some legend that people made up, or he's the truth. I don't think he was a liar or crazy. I don't think he had lost his mind. I think he had lost his people. And he just wanted them back. So he wasn't crazy. But if we say the Bible is true, we believe that to be our source of truth. We can't be afraid to use that as our source for Jesus. So I want to read John 1, verse 14. It says, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us." He's saying Jesus is God. Jesus is who he said he was. He dwelt among us. We beheld his glory, glory as the only begotten from the Father, full of grace, full of truth. So kind of crazy it comes back to talk about grace and truth. But the Bible accounts for the life of Jesus. But not only does the Bible account for the life of Jesus, history and science account for the life of Jesus that prove that he actually existed. There's a guy named Tacitus. He was a Roman guy. He was basically the equivalent of the History Channel or National Geographic in that time. He accounted for everything that was happening around that time, and he talks about Jesus in his writings, that he was an actual person. So we know he wasn't just a legend. Right? So we know he wasn't crazy. We know he wasn't just a legend. So it can only be that he's exactly who he said he was. He was the truth. There's shrines and historical markers of the crucifixion at Calvary where he was crucified. There's a shrine around his tomb where he was buried and where he resurrected. But the miracles that are documented in all of these things are proof of exactly who he said he was. It's proof that he was a direct connection to God. And then the greatest of all, the resurrection, proves who he was. And not only, it wasn't as if the resurrection happened and there was just an empty tomb. Because that's one thing. Oh, he's gone. He actually appeared. He came and made himself come back to life, and he appeared to people. Paul writes this in 1 Corinthians. It says, after that he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers and sisters at the same time. And this is important right here. He says, most of whom are still living. What's he saying there? He's saying, look, don't take my word for it. Go ask somebody. The circulation of this text right now is going around, and he's saying, look, the people that had saw him, there's over 500. Go ask them. Do y'all think if he was lying, he'd say, go ask these people and see if I'm telling the truth? He's telling them, don't take my word for it. Go look. You don't have to listen to my personal story. Go ask these people and find out for yourself and hear their story. But I think if you have a relationship with Jesus, you have your own personal story that no one can take from you. I know for sure my proof of Jesus. I know because of Jesus, I am a better father. I'm a better husband. I'm a better brother. I'm a better friend. Because of Jesus, I'm a better leader. I'm a better teacher. I'm a better communicator. Because of Jesus, I'm a better person. So you can't tell me he was just some other guy. Because I know he's not. You can clearly see Jesus has changed lives, he's changed history, and he's changed hearts. And he's continuing to do that every single day. So he's not just some other guy. So we know that the Bible is our source of truth, and it is true and accurate in what it says. It accounts for Jesus. We know history accounts for Jesus. We have our personal relationship with Jesus that says we know who this guy is, and we trust him. So the question comes down with an atheist, because it's God versus nothing. It's God versus the idea that the world just spontaneously happened. Because that's what they believe. They don't believe in a creator. They don't believe in the afterlife. They believe that this all just kind of happened, and then you die and you become dirt or maggot food, whatever. As bad as it sounds, that's what they believe. So it's God versus nothing. Now, as far as creation, they'll tell you, it just kind of all happened. There's over 200 parameters, over 200 things that have to line up just perfect for Earth to even support life. There's 200 things that if just one of those were off by just a little, we couldn't be here right now. This wouldn't happen. Yet, they want to say it's all just a coincidence. Now, I want you to watch this video real quick. This is a video of a guy named Francis Chan, and he kind of goes into a little more detail on the idea of this all being just some chance of this happening.
It doesn't matter all the lies you've been told that you created yourself or that you were an accident. No, the Bible says that you were made by him, and there's a sense in which you have no excuse. No matter what's been taught in class, what's been told to you by your parents, what Romans 1 verse 20 says, it says, for his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. It says ever since God made this world, it says you could see his invisible qualities and his divine nature through what was made. Because everyone, so no one has an excuse in here. That somehow you can look around and know that you were made by God. You were created by him. You were not an accident. In fact, he says it's not even an accident that you're in this room. He determined when you were born, where you would be born, where you would live. This is all in Acts chapter 17. You were created by him. Man, I remember even as a kid, when I learned about the earth, I was like, this is insane. Think about it. You and I right now, we're sitting on a ball. Okay? Straight below us is this core of magma, lava, fire, surrounded by water, covered in 2/3 water. This round ball, and we're spinning right now at 1,000 miles an hour. And you're just sitting there. Well, yeah, of course, that always happens. Yeah, and this thing that's spinning 1,000 miles an hour, and we're flying around the sun. Does that ever just make you think, like, I am flying around a ball of fire that is 1.3 million times the size of the earth, and I'm flying around it at 67,000 miles an hour right now. It's 93 million miles away as I'm spinning and circling around it. And we go, it's a little hot today. Are you kidding me? 93 million miles away. If we were a little bit closer to the sun, we would burn. The tiniest further away, we would freeze, and we're spinning, we're tilted just right, everything going 67,000 miles an hour. We're sitting in this room, we're talking, we're thinking, we're feeling, we're laughing, we're crying, and we go, it's all an accident? Really?
That's good.
Explain the love you feel.
It's crazy when he puts it out. When you really sit down and think about it, exactly that all that just happened and it's just an accident. That's proof. You can look around when you walk out, see, it speaks in Romans of God's invisible qualities. It speaks of, you can see his divine nature in every single thing out there. But along with that, we have a personal story. If you have a relationship with Jesus and God, you have your own personal story that people cannot refute. That is proof that God is in your life. That is proof that you have God in your life and you can see it clearly. I'm standing right here, right now, getting to speak to you about this because of God. Y'all may not know this, but 6-7 years ago, I told y'all that I didn't grow up going to church. I didn't grow up in a youth group. I didn't grow up. The way I got to come to church is because a buddy of mine from high school came into my work one day and said, hey man, there's a church down the street. You remember Brian Shippey? He's the youth pastor there. You should come check it out. I'm like, all right, man, whatever. Get out of here. But I knew Brian. We weren't good friends, but just knew of him. We went to school together. But for some reason, I talked my wife in, let's come. So I have Brian Shippey's number and I have Tyler's number. And the one day we're in here is when Crosspoint was still, the church was in this building here. And I show up that first day and I text him and say, hey man, I made it. I'm here. Where y'all at? Both of them text me back and said, oh, we're not here today. And I could have easily at that point just said, you know what? Forget this. They invited me, but they didn't show up. But something made me and my wife, we literally sat in the car and we're waiting to say, I don't think we should go in here. I don't know anybody. It's going to be awkward. But we walked in anyway. Something made us walk in and come in here. A little bit past that, Brian Shippey, I started coming pretty frequent, became a regular. And Brian's like, hey, you want to help out with this move thing? And I'm like, absolutely not. What is it? He said, before he even told me what it was, I said no. He said, oh, it's 5th through 8th grade. You kind of just hang out with them. I'm like, no, terrible. That sounds terrible. Junior high kids are the worst. I don't want to do this. But God softened my heart and let me do that. And I'm here now because of that. Another time, as I told y'all, I didn't grow up this way. I wasn't baptized until I was 27 years old, and it was at our Bailey Road campus when we were still inside the school. The Sunday I'm supposed to get baptized, that Thursday before, my wife was pregnant. She was 5.5 months pregnant. We find out that Thursday before that we lost the baby. How I could have easily said, you know what, God? Why did you let this happen to me? I'm not going Sunday. I'm not going to let this. Why am I going to get baptized when all this bad things happen to me? But I had this peace about it. And I still went and did it. Something made me go and do it. All of those things lead me to here. If I wouldn't have walked in the door that day, if I wouldn't have taken the invite from Tyler, if I would have let this pain, this suffering that I was feeling keep me from being baptized. Just a few weeks ago, Drew asked me, hey, look, Ruggie, we're going to go through this Grace and Truth series, and we're going to do some different religions, and you got atheism. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. One of the hardest subjects to speak on, and you want me to do that. It's a God thing. There's no reason I should be here. I had so many excuses, so many chances to turn my back, and it would have been easily, and no one would have thought different. Yet I'm standing here today to get to talk to you about God. It's crazy. There's a renowned Christian apologetics guy. His name is Ravi Zacharias. If you read or YouTube it, the dude is awesome. But he says one thing. He says the belief or disbelief in God will have more consequences, meaning a bigger effect on your life than any other issue. The belief or disbelief in God, either one, is going to have the biggest effect. It's because the way you speak, the way you treat other people, the way you treat your friends, the way you talk to people, the way you work, your work ethic, the way you study, the way you treat your teachers, all of those things hinge on your belief of God. And I believe this to be true, that one day, every single person is going to get to a point and they're going to get in front of God, and He's going to say two things. He's going to say, depart from me, you never knew me. Or He's going to say, welcome, my faithful servant, my child, you have made me proud. So my question to you today is to leave you with this. Are you going to trust in this love versus hate? Because that's who Jesus was. That's what the Bible teaches us, is this love versus hate. Are you going to trust in redemption or death? Is it going to be the idea that God came as a man and died on a cross for us so that we can have a right relationship and live in eternity with God? Or are we just going to believe in this death that just happens? Or are you going to believe in God or nothing? Because those are your choices with atheism. That's your choice. You either believe in God or nothing. So my question to you is, what do you believe? And we're going to break into small groups. Let's pray. God, we love you. We thank you for today, Lord. We thank you for this time. We thank you for just your words, Lord. To know that you are here with us. You give us proof every single day. You give us the confidence to go through life. And just, I pray for each of these students that they will prepare to be able to defend what they believe with grace and truth. And as hard as it is sometimes to do with grace, that we will do it because that's what you did, Lord. We love you. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.